guys, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and today I want to talk about Sentinels of the Multiverse. Sentinels of the Multiverse is a cooperative deck-playing game where you form a team of superheroes, all with their own unique decks, and fight a powerful supervillain until one of you is defeated. You win by defeating the villain, and lose when all of your heroes have been eliminated. The game is for 2 to 5 players, although I don't see why you couldn't play it solo, since the digital version works that way. This is one of the best digital adaptations I've ever seen, and the game lends itself very nicely to digital gaming because it takes care of all the bookkeeping for you. The game came out in 2011, but I only started playing it recently. You see, my gaming group back then had gotten the game, and they were playing it pretty much every week. That should have been a sign for me. But at that time, I was very much against cooperative games. They should have insisted that I play this game because it's phenomenal. It has the potential to be in my top 10 favorite games of all time. Full credit goes to Father Time 85 for getting me hooked on this. Sentinels of the Multiverse isn't just a game. Like Smash Up, it's a system. The expansion content slides seamlessly into the main system, creating a renewable, interchangeable experience that doesn't get old. The main game comes with a ton of content. 10 heroes, 4 villains, and 4 environments, and each of these provides another factor for replayability. You form a team of heroes and face off against a villain in a neutral environment, playing cards, dealing damage, and beating up your opponents. I'll be talking about the game without giving too much of a rules explanation because there's too much to cover. But my hope is that this will intrigue you enough to try it yourself, as it's available on Steam, Android, and iOS, and also in physical form. I think I paid $7 on iOS for the base game, and it's money well spent. Let's start with the villains. The villains are all unique and require a different game plan. Form the wrong team, and you will fail miserably. Each villain is double-sided, with a condition that flips and makes them possibly more powerful. Some villains flip once, while others flip multiple times. Each villain comes with a unique deck that provides an interesting challenge. Villains also have challenge modes that make them more difficult, offering a subtle change that can be surprisingly brutal in the wrong scenario. Villains also have variants, keeping the same deck but using it in different ways, that change how you have to approach the villain considerably. Each villain seems to have one major gotcha card that is brutal if it comes out at the wrong time, and it happens. Baron Blade is the recommended introductory villain, and he operates on a timer. When a certain amount of cards are in his discard pile, the game ends immediately and the heroes lose. While he summons minions to help fight the heroes, you may want to ignore them, as killing them puts them in the discard pile and accelerates the end of the game. He also has moments of invulnerability, making it harder to rush him. He's definitely the easiest, but can still prove challenging if you are unprepared. Baron Blade flips halfway through, getting more powerful as he reveals his final form. Unlike Baron Blade, who is a race, Omnitron is a slow grind. He has a very high amount of hit points and can recycle drones, which get more powerful as more come out. You cannot really ignore these, even though he will bring many of them back. Omnitron also has an array of annoying ongoing cards that require you to deal so much damage to him that they are destroyed, penalizing you in annoying ways if you leave them in play. Worst of all, one of them forces you to change the type of damage you use each time you attack, because he adapts like the Borg. There are a dozen different types of damage, and it helps to bring in heroes who could attack with different types, because if you bring a team of only melee damage, you will lose spectacularly. Citizen Dawn is probably my favorite villain in the core set, because you have to be very careful about what you attack. Omnitron, you have to take out the drones. Baron Blade, you might want to take out the minions, but you could also ignore them. With Citizen Dawn, if you take out too many citizens, she flips her card and becomes invulnerable until a certain amount of citizens are back in play. This can take time, particularly on the harder settings, and you might take a beating until she flips back. But she only flips once. Sometimes I accept that she has to become invulnerable and plan for rebuilding turns. But other times I leave that last citizen out and hope that its partner doesn't come out, as there are citizens that have brutal combo effects. Finally, there is Grand Warlord Voss, who is basically Thanos mashed up with Darkseid. Voss wins if you start his turn with a number of minions in play, so you have to kill the minions. But his gotcha card is Forced Deployment, which is brutal because it brings all the minions from the discard pile back into play. Some of these minions deal damage to everyone, and he starts with a large number of them in play. It's definitely a grind, because many of the minions are immune to a particular type of damage. It's hard to damage Voss while minions are in play, but he brings in other targets that have brutal effects if left unchecked. He is beatable if you prepare accordingly, and figuring out what team to bring is half the fun. But heroes are the crux of the game. They are drastically different and offer plenty of variety. You can vary the heroes you bring, the order of the heroes, the number of heroes, and their power variants. All of these make a significant difference. There are times where I wish I ordered the heroes differently based on what the environment card can do. I recently played against a supervillain who reversed the team order, and it was brutal. The team must have 3 to 5 heroes, but I've only played with 4 because I like the idea of filling positions based on needed paradigms. You have damage dealers, tanks, healers, support units, and everything in between. I'll go over each hero in the core set briefly. Absolute Zero is easily the most complex hero, but he is also my favorite in the core set. I had no idea how to use him until about the 4th game because he takes so long to build up. But if you can get him going, he is a beast. Absolute Zero wants to deal himself fire damage so that he can deal cold damage, and cold damage can heal him or deal more damage to opponents. I definitely don't recommend him for your first few games, because he won't do much of anything for the first few turns, but sticking him in the back row and building him up has dealt a ton of damage in later rounds when I need him to do so. Bunker is probably my least favorite. There are 3 key moments in a hero turn: playing cards, using powers, and drawing cards. Bunker can switch between modes where he can do one of those 3 things well, but not necessarily the others. He needs to draw cards in the right order, and it just doesn't happen for me. I find the modes restrictive and cumbersome unless I can get 2 powers in play early and leave him in turret mode where he can just deal a bunch of damage. But he doesn't draw cards this way without some other abilities, so if that mode gets destroyed, he'll be very weak. He's good for increasing difficulty, but I rarely pick him to fill a need. Fnatic is absolutely fantastic. Fnatic wants to deal herself damage to activate powerful effects, including an attack that deals the difference between her current HP and her max HP. I've dealt over 30 damage with that attack, and she can deal damage potentially every turn. I love her variant where she deals herself damage, plays the top card of her deck, and lets another hero use a power, except when they accidentally play her reset card End of Days that completely wrecks Absolute Zero. Still, this is a fun, high-risk, high-reward character who can deal multiple damage types and is always welcome on my team. Haka is okay. He is a tank who can heal and can deal a lot of damage. He wants to draw a lot of cards and discard them for powerful effects, but I find myself only doing that once at the end. He deals a lot of melee damage, which can be a problem if you invest too much in that damage type against certain villains, but he can get the job done if you need someone to take damage and deal it back. Legacy rarely leaves my party and is a good candidate to be your first hero. Legacy can make everyone else stronger. He can heal them, make them draw extra cards, and even shield them from damage. Legacy can take damage to prevent the villain from playing cards, which can be critical at the right moment. His damage modifier is a double-edged sword, as it increases the damage players like Absolute Zero deal themselves, particularly Legacy, but it's worth it. He does have a lot of redundant cards and limited damage, but his upside makes up for any deficiencies. Legacy is great, and should be the first character you try. Ra is a really interesting damage dealer who deals primarily fire damage. He has great one-shots and powers, and create a combo where all heroes deal fire damage and the fire damage is increased. He could also make all heroes immune to fire damage. He saved my life numerous times with his abilities to play a card that let him use an extra power, racking up damage quickly. Because he deals fire damage and has spread attacks, he can trigger Absolute Zero to attack again. This is an example of inter-team synergy that makes the game so fun, as you aren't just randomly choosing heroes. Tachyon plays a lot of cards, draws a lot of cards, and discards a lot of cards. Most of that damage is weak, but most of her cards have a burst subtype. Tachyon has cards that get more powerful as more bursts enter her discard pile, which turns her into a ticking time bomb. She has a very high ceiling, but can be wrecked by having her discard pile shuffled into her deck. She is still a lot of fun, and a good introductory candidate for players to try. Tempest is another damage dealer who deals a lot of damage and takes a lot of damage. He can be quite powerful if he lowers his defenses, and has plenty of spread attacks for swarm-based villains. He also draws a lot of cards and always has something to play. He has both high single target damage and low spread damage, as well as moderate damage to a few targets. You have to be careful though, because there are villains who attack the lowest HP hero, so Tempest can die quickly if you aren't careful. He can also heal everyone instead of attacking, so there's an interesting trade-off between playing conservatively and going out in a blaze of glory. Either way, I love Tempest. Visionary is the perfect example of a character who can win or lose a game based on matchup. She doesn't deal a lot of damage, and mostly manipulates all three types of decks. Often, this is useless, but against some opponents, it is amazing. She can also destroy a lot of powerful ongoing cards. You have to pick her spots carefully, but as a support unit, she can do some amazing things if she is a good fit. I do use her on occasion, though sometimes I regret it. Finally, there is Wraith, the female Batman. If you can get her going, she can be really powerful. She starts out weak and doesn't have a lot of great one-shots, but she can hold a lot of equipment and do a lot with a diverse skill set, just like Batman. If I know that time is on my side with villains, I will put her on the team, particularly because she can limit damage with her stun bolts and provide damage redirection. Last but not least, there are 4 environments. Environments are a neutral deck that can help you or hurt you. I'm not going to go over them in detail because half the fun is the surprise factor that they bring. But environments can be brutal. Most of the times when I die, it's because the environment brings out the wrong card at the wrong time, handicapping me while the villain just unloads on my heroes. What do you mean I can't play cards anymore? But you could also manipulate the environment into working for you, and that provides a ton of strategy. Definitely start with Insula Primalis, the dinosaur environment, because the tougher environments are brutal. Looking at you, Runes of Atlantis. And that's just the core game. The system adds a ton of new ideas that fit well into the core rules. Extra heroes, extra environments, villains, new villain modes, things I don't even know about yet. I highly recommend trying this game digitally. To be fully transparent, I don't own this game in physical form yet. I've had numerous staring contests with it, adding and removing it from my cart, but I haven't been able to pull the trigger because it's the type of game I want to play every week or two, and my schedule can't accommodate that right now. I've got this other thing that I do that takes up a lot of my time, and I'm the type of person who wants to own everything for the game, and I can't justify that purchase right now. I also have no place to put it because it's a giant box and I'm completely tapped out of space, and it's killing me that I don't own it. I'll probably own it in a few months, but I'm always looking to be transparent with the viewers. If your group is looking for something to really sink your teeth into, I cannot recommend this system highly enough. I'd love to feature it more on the channel, so don't be surprised if you see content for it from time to time. So that's a brief overview of Sentinels of the Multiverse, a truly fantastic game system from Greater Than Games. Give it a try, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, let's shut it down.